Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse, where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our SuiteOps community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. Real quick, I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse gets you production ready in just 2 weeks using our AWS reference architectures for Terraform and Atmos. If you're curious to learn more about that, head over to cloudposse.com. So how can you maximize today's session? First off, our format is very informal. You can engage as much as you'd like, ask questions. And if you're curious about any of our open source tools like Atmos, this is a great place to ask. And for those on the recording, we host these calls live, so don't miss out. You can register at cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. I do have one ask. If you find any portion of today's session valuable, go ahead and share it with your team. That's how we grow the community and spread the knowledge. Just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse, where you'll find the recording posted in just a couple of hours. All right, so here's what I got on the agenda today. A couple things that caught my attention before we get into Q&A. First one is a recurring project we've talked a lot about lately is curl. Curl has been suffering from a deluge of AI-generated slop, some good, some bad, mostly bad. And the other thing is basically bogus CVEs. And the way it works is, every time one of these security reports comes along, you actually have to investigate it. The problem is the time and effort that it took to generate the AI slop for the CVE is disproportionately low compared to the time it takes to actually validate and rule out that this is an issue. And it wastes his time away from other things. Plus, it's just a bunch of volunteers, right? So curl has, like many projects, offered a bounty up to $10,000 per critical CVE. And there's also been some meaningful discoveries. I believe forget what, most recently there were a few bug reports that were AI assisted that tracked down serious vulnerabilities in curl that they remediated. The problem is there's so many of these security researchers, in air quotes, that are inundating open source maintainers. We get these as well at Cloud Posse, and it's so annoying because it really tarnishes the reputation of what it means to be a security researcher these days. It's really just a script kiddie with Claude code and email templates and a marketing engine. And I can only imagine how much of that is affecting curl. So they are ending their bug bounty program. This would be an interesting thing if there were any stats like from HackerOne. If you guys have heard of HackerOne, oops, not Hacker Noon, but HackerOne. HackerOne manages a lot of these bug bounties. I wonder, if there's if they've come out and talked about it at all. Any thoughts on this one?
It makes you wonder if other open source repositories or projects of the same scale are going to go this way as well, if they see enough subpar changes and contributions.
Yeah, something's got to change, right? We can. There's just so much of this AI generated slop coming out everywhere, and just like every Reddit I look at, it's just product announcement of this thing I did last night with Claude code, and there's no more discussions, no more. It's just all self-promotion everywhere now, and yeah, this is the other side of that, which is all the bogus bug reports. I don't know. I think I don't want to rule it out. I don't want to eliminate it, but it's almost like it needs to be a separate tab of a separate category of reports, right? That take it with a grain of salt. And if it's AI, entirely AI generated, I don't think it makes sense to compensate other than giving Anthropic the bug bounty. Yeah. I was just reading related to this. I don't know if it's internal service error at Reddit. I don't know if I can find the post here, but some subreddits are starting to do these things, I guess, AI Fridays, where they let you post all your AI generated slop, but on one day. I don't mean yours, ours, everyone's. All right, that was that announcement. Oh, this is that time of day where it decides not to load my slides. All right, next one was a write-up on writing more robust Helm charts. One of the things I thought that was interesting about this that I don't know if I remember is that you can actually, is it true that you can actually bundle tests with Helm unit test for this? So I was not familiar with that. Or this is a separate project, maybe. Helm unit test. Yeah, I guess it's a separate project. Anyone attempt to use Helm unit test before? Guess it basically is letting you add assertions and validations on the generated YAML manifest, not really helping you validate that what you actually created is actually going to do anything inside of Kubernetes. This was another little project I saw, looked interesting. It's a more beautiful MTR alternative. It lets you get a lot of the different networking tools, traceroutes, pings, ECMP detection, MPLS, label parsing, etc., in a nice little top-like console. I think it's pretty awesome, all the cool CLIs coming out these days, leveraging the more robust UI libraries that they have now for console development. It's so interesting how console usage has had a total renaissance, a resurgence. Back in the day, it was, Pico, Nano, Vim, which was awful by comparison, or, well, let's not go down that route. From a UI perspective, it leaves some more things to be desired in my perspective. But then you have, all the IRC clients, but now everything's coming fully bundled with nice little TUIs, text-based UIs. I love it. And I thought it was a statement that Claude Code came out with their CLI. Well, when they came out, their CLI has been terminal-based from the beginning. When everything else has been going with basically a VS Code fork. So this was a project for Kubernetes that I am late to the bandwagon on. I didn't know about it. It already has almost 10,000 stars. And I only found out about it because of this related announcement we'll get to in a second called Kanvas from Docker. But it's this extensible platform for integrating various tools, and I can't really place it. Like, on the one hand, they describe themselves as an internal developer platform, but I don't know that it is necessarily trying to compete with the likes of something like Backstage. Anyone know more about Meshery? Can you help me kind of position this? And it's apparently not quite like ACK or Amazon controllers for Kubernetes, where you're defining custom resources to deploy your resources, and it's not cross-plane. So it has this problem for me. I could never understand what Wayfair was or Waypoint. Waypoint, when HashiCorp came out with Waypoint. It's like in a category by itself, which takes me to Kanvas. So this was interesting. So apparently in collaboration with Layer 5, Mirantis, who owns Docker Hub, has come out with Kanvas, which is attempting to help you take Docker compositions and essentially deploy those directly to Kubernetes. That's kind of interesting because I think Docker Compose is still one of the better local developer experiences for managing, service-oriented architectures. We still recommend customers use it. So this is helping you do that on Kubernetes. But I got a whole lot less excited when I saw that it also required us to have something like Meshery deployed. I thought I think this would have been a lot cooler if like the Docker compose command itself supported ECS or EKS as an endpoint. But mind you, Docker Compose used to support ECS. They dropped support for that. But that's why I was thinking, oh, maybe they're bringing back that concept of using Docker Compose to manage deployments to now Kubernetes and maybe then ECS at one point. Any thoughts on this one?
Do the Meshery guys themselves make any effort to explain how they differentiate from Backstage and the likes? I know sometimes these companies often take a proactive stance on, hey, here's how we stand out, but I don't know if I find anything here.
Yeah, I would expect to see that word on the front page, basically.
Yeah.
but docs overview, let's see, Backstage. Yeah, it integrates with Backstage, but that doesn't really tell me much. So yeah, this is the kind of feedback, I would love to get it from others on like Atmos and what's confusing so that we could answer it directly. If you're listening, anyone out there at Meshery, this would be helpful to position the product alongside other familiar technologies. How does it relate to them? All right. Next up is if you're into these kinds of articles, this is a deep dive into some of the architecture powering the Internet Archive. If you've heard of the Wayback Machine, that's what this is. It's a nonprofit that operates predominantly on grants, and they had to build their own system for managing the petabyte scale of data that they operate on because the commercial solutions were cost prohibitive and also not optimized for operating on a lean budget. Everything from how they disperse heat to how they can scale the systems and so forth. So I thought it was interesting at a higher level. I didn't go too deep into it. So on the Terraform side of things, Anton Babenko released a skill based on, Anton Babenko maintains, I think, Terraform best practices.com, if I remember the URL. Yeah. So I'm guessing based on this wealth of information and operating Terraform AWS modules, he came out and published a skill that you can then install to kind of adopt those best practices for Terraform, especially as used throughout the Terraform AWS modules ecosystem. On another side of things, I think this is an interesting play, though, because I think to some degree, SEO over time will play less and less of a deal. And if you want your software to be used by various agentic systems, the more you make it easier for them, the more likely your software will be then adopted by that. And this is why some projects have adopted that LLMs.txt, which it's unknown if that actually has any effect on things. That was apparently never really a formal standard. So
I'm curious if anyone, I only learned about this Terraform skill thing just a few minutes ago. I was curious if anyone's compared this with the existing Terraform MCP. I know they're targeting different things, but assuming you're using Claude for both and you're asking similar questions to Claude, I would imagine there is a fair bit of overlap there in terms of suggestions and guidance on how to improve your service.
Yeah, I mean, I lean for this kind of thing. I would lean a lot more on skills over an MCP because you can take this as your base to start with it, and then extend it to your own preferences as you go, without the overhead of maintaining a separate service that you have to start and run. This is also the kind of thing that would be interesting, to bundle together with a marketplace. And it looks like he has a Claude plugin configuration here for that. So look at that.
Ooh. Well, that's super neat. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, this came up a couple of weeks ago. I forget who brought it up, or it was teaching us about the Claude Code marketplace. But it's a great way to bundle skills and agents combined with like whatever MCPs they operate well with and tools they need. And anyone can create their own marketplace. So yes, I would expect to see something like this coming out from Cloud Posse at some point in the future. Okay, covered that. So then on to AWS. I thought this was an interesting announcement in the sea of announcements that is AWS. That ECR now supports this cross-repository layer sharing. And this is interesting because if you've been deploying a lot of services such as to Kubernetes and you're bringing up new nodes and they're pulling a lot down, gigs and gigs and gigs, hundreds of gigs sometimes. Then the layers are just duplicated, and it's pretty slow, actually, bringing up a machine like that. I've seen teams trying to optimize this by literally baking their own AMIs where they've already pulled the base layers of the base images just so their nodes come up faster. This is a little bit in that vein, you could say, where if you ensure that all of your images have a common base across all your ECR repositories, then once you've pulled one of those images and those base layers are the same, now you're in your other ECR repositories as you pull images where the delta is really only your software that you're adding on top of it, the effective size of the image should be much, much smaller. And that means your startup times for deploying apps and spinning up nodes should be much faster and less and require less bandwidth. And the next one is, I believe, Blue Greens came out at reInvent. Was it a year ago or something for RDS? I didn't believe they had support at that time for Postgres, but now it looks like Blue Green. I think that was slightly. That might have been a slightly different announcement thinking of. But in this here, this is so that when you're doing like an RDS upgrade, there's now the ability to do basically a blue-green upgrade where the cutover is just measured in the seconds, so like 5 seconds. So that sounds pretty nice. And if there's a failure, of course, then you just continue operating the way you were. So de-risking your upgrades to RDS and the impact on production systems, of course. Still just wish they'd come out with branching. Would really like to see branching in RDS.
Given that they say they brought it down to under 5 seconds, do we know what the previous benchmark was?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I want to imagine it's like 5 minutes, but I've got no idea.
Yeah. It's interesting though. Yeah. So I wonder if I'd be really curious if AWS RDS, if anybody's talked about branching, if there's been any buzz. Yeah. Next up is the last thing I got on my list here, something I came across I thought looked pretty nice. If you're building tools that are talking to Kubernetes, you can now leverage clientcmd as an easier way to interact with the Kubernetes API endpoints through something called clientcmd. So why this resonates for us is, we do some things in Atmos related to Kubernetes, and I could see that if we were adding additional functionality into Atmos, maybe this is something we should pursue. All right. That's all I got. Any other interesting announcements? Let's check the chat here. Oh, and then I kind of went back and forth between the Docker Canvas announcement and the other related Meshery one. So Jeremy White said he decided to use this tool here, OpenKanban. Instead of Conductor. That name OpenKanban doesn't make sense to me as a competitor by itself. Let's see here. What is OpenKanban doing? Let me bring this over. I thought that would, to me, that would be like a Trello. But okay, TUI Kanban board for orchestrating AI coding agents. I'm just watching the GIF here. So yeah, that's interesting. It makes me think a little bit of the spec-driven approach, and you can then turn each of those into a task, and then you see it progress on the board. Overall, I like the idea conceptually. I think that'd be really cool. It is so remarkable to me, as I witnessed on my own team, just how intimate the relationship is with your AI agent and coding, like the preferences and what one person thinks is the next best thing since sliced bread is still just never good enough, and there's still something different. And I guess that's why we're really in this renaissance of tooling and things. And yes, I'm thinking of you, Ben. You're still on the hunt for your match.
Yeah, keep digging and eventually I'll find something. It's just, Golang, anti-gravity, all the IDEs don't feel right anymore. I mean, for the most part, it is just Claude Code or whatever AI, but eventually I do want to review the code, so then I do need an IDE, and it's that mix that I'm missing.
Yeah. Maybe the real problem is things like GitHub, the code review, need to catch up with what is needed. If we're doing less of this review in the IDE, I guess it'd be interesting to take another look at some of the local code review tools. I've never used them, but I know I remember Matt back in the day had mentioned something, I think, and there are things. The problem I have now is I still swear by Conductor, but there's a problem that I have now, which I think would be a problem with any one of these tools, is that so in Conductor, what I love is it tells me the status of every one of my workspaces, are tests passing, are changes requested, is it conflicted, is it ready to merge, has it been approved, I can view the CI jobs, everything right there. But what does that require? GitHub API credentials and GitHub API access. So now that I've hit the 70 workspace, 70 concurrent workspaces, now I hit GitHub rate limits. So my entire experience has degraded to nothing better than me going back to GitHub and checking what the status is on everything. And that sucks. But I don't know that any one of these tools could really solve it unless they do the same thing that conductor needs to do, desperately needs to do, which is I need to be able to pause workspaces. Like, look, these are what I'm working on right now. Pause updates on everything else. I don't need to be updated on all 70 workspaces all the time. And I don't, yeah.
Well, so far, I really found it to be helpful. I think you've got great points there. I use Linux, so I can't really use Conductor.
Oh, they don't have it. Okay.
Yeah, they're closed source. So the nice thing about OpenKanban is I can pick different backends. I don't have to worry about the Cloud Code API thing because it'll run Cloud Code directly. And it has integration into all those different sort of in tools. And for me, I found it to be pretty helpful. You have to kind of step in sometimes to pause things, but creating dependencies isn't too hard. I think maybe the only thing I would say I kind of want to hack on it a little bit, add multiple columns. It'd be nice if a column represented a different agent or a different command or skill set.
Or you almost need like swim lanes or
Or swim lanes, yeah. So there could be a
yeah.
swim lane for hey, merge these tickets or stuff like that, But it's been pretty fun though.
I'm gonna screenshot it and ask the conductor guys, when are you guys introducing Kanban boards?
Yeah, when are they going to be on Linux?
And I'll prod them about the Linux as well. I mean, it's just a React-based app, like Electron type app or something. So I don't see why it wouldn't be able to work on Linux. They probably just haven't prioritized it yet.
I know anti-gravity from Google. I've been playing around with that. It has its agent view, which is a lot like Conductor. It looks, I mean, I think it actually might have imported some of my workspaces from it. Maybe not. But that supports Linux, Jeremy. So if you want to give that a shot, I don't know. It's still in free trial, so you still get some free tokens and stuff for now.
Oh yeah, but I'm open to that. And yeah, so Ben, I would recommend you try OpenKanban. Let me know what you think.
Yeah. And one more thing would be, did you check out Supabase or no, not Supabase, Superset yet?
I ended up
I don't know if they have a Linux version either.
I'd have to check. I'd be down to try that out. Yeah, this weekend was me just kicking myself saying, okay, finally I need to sit down with Conductor, see if I can convert it to Linux. I couldn't. So then let me see if there's something else like it. Oh, I found something. Okay. So that was this weekend. And also more on Excalidraw, MCP and Excalidraw skills, which has been pretty fun. When it works really good. So I've been just sort of mashing through a few different skills that are Claude plugins, trying to make that better. So nothing yet, although you might see something open source from me on skills if I get something that will consistently draw infrastructure. And I'm teaching it some JQ food so it can actually use the AWS Excalidraw libs. So it's a little bit it's half sexy, right? Not really great, but better than what it was. So yeah, but I'll try Superset next. I think that sounds like Superset and anti-gravity coming to a weekend near you. I'm getting snowed in on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Productivity goes up a little bit. And then Tim mentions Cairo by AWS, and yeah, we haven't had that much of a representation on office hours from anybody using it. But
the one thing for that for me is looking at the pricing. The only thing I'm not sure on is like if we're already paying for AI pricing, I don't want to then have to pay for a AI IDE that gives me a smaller subset of tokens to use. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. The benefit then is you get different, different AI models and stuff. But I'm hesitant to use something that I got to pay for if I'm already paying for AI agents
Yeah.
and models. Looks interesting though.
Mhm.
Maybe do a free trial. The other thing
Um,
with
yeah, go on.
Conductor that I noticed is the hesitation of why I'm not using it for a lot of my workflows is I just switch around from repository to repository so much. I mean, we're maybe a niche use case where we have those
Mhm.
Oh
hundreds of
yeah,
component
that's another thing I
repositories.
like about OpenKanban. You get multiple repos. It
Mm.
actually will manage the different repos along with the different um, work trees.
But how is that not what Conductor does, or how is it different? I'm not following the connection.
Oh well, I actually I've never used Conductor. I just know that Ben said that
Mhm.
that it sounded like Conductor doesn't work well when you're swapping between repos. And so far, Kanban has done that for me.
You have to sort of set up each repo individually.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you do. You have to import them ultimately into the app. Um,
I guess the only hard part is if I say, I need to modify, like a while ago, we had a AWS provider, I think version 6 had a new authentication form, right? And we had to update
mhm.
all of our provider TFs. One way is write a script, clone every repo from the org into some folder, then iterate from every folder and modify the provider's TF. Well, besides writing bash, how can I do that with AI now? And it's like, well, if I have every repo cloned locally, I could tell Claude or something for every repo
Yeah.
in here, check out a branch and make the change. But um, and
So
I
I
guess
think
that's a
that's
niche use case.
well, yeah, but I think it might be. So here's how I've resolved that. I have something I call a playground, and then here I do things that's all across different repositories.
Hmm.
So yes, you'll get the benefits of using it, if you import each repository, but that has, practical limitations. Like you don't want to have 200, 300 repositories in this list probably. So that's that's how I'm working it. All right. Let's see what else here. Michael, yeah, Michael, how's your podcast going? You want to share an update?
Yeah, if you don't mind a little shameless self-promotion.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Angela
Go for
Andrews
it.
and I have a little book club, at least that's what we call it. It's a podcast called From Cover to Code, and every season we read a technology book, work out the code in the book, and just kind of discuss our experience with the technologies and so on. And this upcoming season, we're doing a cert sprint for the AWS Certified AI Practitioner. This is the book that we're going to be reading. It's an O'Reilly book by Tom Towley. And yeah, we're planning on studying January 28th through sometime in March, depending on how the episodes work. We're doing like one or two chapters a show. And then we're going to take the exam in March and kind of talk about our experiences and everything. So if this was something that you were thinking about doing, or just want to hang out with us for the fun of it, we live stream on LinkedIn on Wednesday afternoons, Pacific and Eastern time, and then the show goes to YouTube probably by Friday or so after it's edited and everything. So you can catch us on LinkedIn if you want to join us, or on YouTube if you want to catch up later. And we're on all your podcasts and platforms and everything. I finally got a RSS feed set up to do that kind of stuff late last year. So if you're a podcast listener, you can
Uh,
find us there as well.
all right, cool. Yeah, and you have your YouTube channel there. One thing that we use is Buzzsprout. I don't know if you
Oh,
have
yeah.
something similar. We use this to syndicate everywhere, and you get a page for it. So, going in all in on, or are you going like strategically in on AWS AI like Bedrock, and going to be providing services on that, or?
Not specifically. This is more just kind of like a catch up, and just like the rubber stamp of skills. Kind of like
Yeah.
it's almost table stakes to have some sort of AI experience these days. So we're like, okay,
Yeah,
well
yeah.
let's look at, and we wanted to read something AI because AI is all the buzz right now. It's been the buzz for the past year 2 years or whatever. So we're like, let's read an AI book. Let's kind of get some validation for having done the study and everything.
Mhm.
So we just kind of landed on it. It wasn't anything that we're trying to do per se for work
Mhm.
or for personal stuff. It's just like we're using AI. Let's read an AI book and kind of get the rubber stamp. But I will say, kind of sneak preview, we're planning for the following season, which will be sometime, let's see, in April, of doing a Terraform certification, like reading a
Mm.
Terraform book, getting the Terraform certification. I've gotten the certification years ago. I don't know if they expire or whatever the case is. But Angela, my co-host, was interested in doing that. So sneak preview, give us a few months and we'll probably be doing that. And it will be specifically for like, work validation or, the rubber stamp, like I say, to kind of get the approval that, yay, verily, this person knows how to use Terraform and so on.
Very cool. Well, that's thanks for the update there.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to share. I do appreciate it.
Of course. Any other interesting things you catch your attention this past week, Michael?
Yeah, actually, I have an oddball question if we're moving on to Q&A.
Yeah.
So I work with a team that uses Grafana, and so they've got a ton of charts that they annotate throughout, the months, weeks, whatever. And so every quarter we do a like quarterly review, like it's called a KPI review. Basically, we're looking back at the performance of systems over the past quarter. And so what we've come to find is it's getting harder to make sense of all the annotations. Like you look at the graph, and if you're ever on Grafana and you add an annotation, it puts a vertical line across the graph, right? So when you come to the end of a quarter and you're looking at 3 months worth of data, you have all these vertical lines, and it totally obliterates the actual chart that you're trying to read, let alone having to collect all the information from the annotation. So it turns out that Grafana has an API for collecting annotations. I've never used it before. I'm going to start trying to figure out how to do that so we can, number one, capture all the annotations in one place. And then maybe number two, have some AI summarize the annotations to like collect big events or, all the big notes
Yeah,
around
yeah.
one event into one kind of summarization. Just wondering if anybody has done anything similar, if they had any pointers on that. Even if it's like Datadog, I imagine they probably have something similar, or Dynatrace, they might have something similar as well. But yeah, we're using Grafana right now.
All I can say is I've had some moments of info bloat on Grafana. It's been a while ago, but we were running on ClickHouse, and
Yep.
I basically had my own scripts and schemas for just taking the ClickHouse data, and then it would take a while, but having it just reanalyze data points and condense them and remove stuff. So that was just, I mean, sounds kind of, I guess, yuck maybe, but you can just leverage your data store to do those cleanups if it's expressive enough.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Do you
that's
have
a
a
good point.
do you have any internal uh, like dashboards or places to host these kinds of things already in place?
Yes. So if it's not Grafana, it is Databricks. And if it's not Databricks, well, I mean, we host Databricks or, internal Databricks, but I was going to say Datadog. Datadog's not necessarily self-hosted if that's what you're
Yeah.
getting at. But yeah, I mean, and we've got other stuff
No,
like
no, I mean, like if you wanted to create your own summarization, your own dashboards for this information, I think that's where I'm getting more and more excited about it. It's so easy to create your internal dashboards that can pull the data from wherever you want, and then you can massage it and present it just the way you need to do it.
yes and kind of yes. So internal right now out of the box would probably be Power BI. I've worked
Oh,
with
okay,
that
yeah,
using
yeah, yeah,
a little bit of Python, some Excel, and it's kind of gotten me where I need to be. I don't like the operational model of working in Power BI, where
yeah,
I mean, you kind of create the data model or something, and then you can use it across different charts. It works, but I haven't really wrapped my head around it. What I prefer is to just have a Git repo with all of my scripts, and I kind of build it out so it's very process oriented. Like I have one script that collects the data, one script that analyzes the data, and then another script that takes the analysis and creates the images. And then I just upload the images to a PowerPoint presentation, and that's my presentation. I
Yeah.
probably could like have a service or some sort of web service that does all of that for me and sits on top of the GitHub repo and the data store where I, can pull the data and well, yeah. But so the answer is yes and no. Like it's it's there on an enterprise level with Power BI. I've kind of got my own little cobbled together thing with scripts that I run locally, and a lot of that was AI generated. And then no, because there's not one place that kind of pulls that into, easy to approach dashboard. We can kind of browse those
Yeah.
analyses.
I bring it up because it feels kind of similar to some of the things that I'm working on internally, not for the same purposes. And also, like you said, Power BI, that does seem like overkill for pulling annotations out of Grafana and presenting a report that summarizes that in some way.
Yeah,
It's like a sledgehammer
yeah, no doubt.
to solve the problem.
For a thumbtack.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is so if you've seen like what we've done on Atmos and we have like this roadmap, and historically speaking, if you were to put these kinds of roadmaps together, you might create a data model that be hosted in SQL, and then you have a CMS managing that and doing all of it. But I don't think you even need that anymore. And you can
Yeah.
literally just define your data model in a JSON file and then render it in beautiful ways that present the information you want to present the way you want to present it. And that's something we've been doing here. And then what's cool about that is like I can just repurpose that data then and present it a different way, like talking about our Atmos roadmap. So now this is taking that same data and presenting it as a slide for different users or things, but it's the same underlying data.
Cool.
So that's where I was going kind of like, so if you're trying to create a report for the quarter of those annotations and the outages, really just get that into JSON and then figure out how you want to present it.
Yeah, and that's the road that I want to walk down. And I mean, if you can imagine, there's, I don't know, a handful of services, call it half a dozen plus, that all do different things. And so the metrics and data are different. So yes, each one has their own sort of data model, if you will. There's one that I've really got dialed down. It's beautiful. And yeah, to your point, I've got a data model. And it pulls data from a MySQL database, and all the scripts are smart enough to know, like, hey, this is the kind of the way that the data should come out. This is the shape of the data that we want to look at it in. And once you have the data in that shape, then you can start your analysis. Everything's done. So that one's done. It'd be great if I could do kind of use that same approach on the other stuff and then pull something together like what you just demonstrated, where it's like, hey, here's all the data. Give us the presentation,
Yeah,
just make it,
yeah,
month by month,
exactly.
quarter over quarter, and then we can do our review from that data. So that's sort of the goal. That's the finish line, but I'll get there.
Yeah, good question. Rashad, what are you up to?
Hello. Not a huge amount to Terraform, but it is just on a tangential note. Since you guys, with your Atmos and your GitHub Actions, for the longest time, I've only ever used GitHub Actions with Bash. And that's what I tend to use because I always thought you're only running Terraform or OpenTofu CLI. You don't really need anything more than Bash to do it. Until you get to a point where you're doing Bash arrays and things like that. You're like, maybe this isn't the best
Exactly.
choice. And at that point, so currently what I've been doing for the last few days is attending local meetups and kind of really getting back into JavaScript and more specifically TypeScript. And not for web development, but more so for GitHub Actions and using TypeScript. And there's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of GitHub packages already that makes it easy to get started.
And it's so much faster.
And that's what I was curious about your
Yeah.
experience, your team's experience. Do you prefer TypeScript? Is it easier, harder? Do you have your own way of doing it? How do you go about it?
I think it depends on the depth of which you're going to go. If it's just something quick and easy, just literally using the TypeScript action, or like, So what we do is we have these actions here, and then
like the GitHub action script where you can quickly make a call or a request.
Yeah. So what's amazing, what always surprises me is like a lot of our workflows take 15, 20, 30 minutes to run, but almost within seconds of me opening the pull request, this GitHub action almost always completes. And I think that's just a testament that it is really efficient when you're just using GitHub script, for example. But there's a big downside doing this, of course, is you don't get the syntax highlighting, the validation, and the testing of it. And this brings me into a whole nother topic, which is what I have the kind of realization that we've had at Cloud Posse is if you find yourself putting this much logic into your workflows, into your actions themselves, that is a red flag that the tools you are using are just not CI native. And sure, third-party tools, I gotcha. If it's GitHub, or I mean, if it's Terraform, OpenTofu, whatever. But if there's anything you're doing in-house and it's not CI native, I think why don't you put it in your CLI tools that you're building? And that's what we have as the realization for Atmos and a part of our roadmap. This is why all of our GitHub actions for Atmos, I hope, in a couple months, we don't need to maintain them anymore. Because those actions, what they're really saying is the underlying tool is inadequate for CI. Because you have to have shell scripts and JQ and bash and TypeScript or whatever you say. If you're wrapping it with all of that, the tool is not CI native. And if it's fundamental to what you do, why not make the tools fundamentally speak CI?
Gotcha. Which ones summaries?
So on the roadmap, you can see what we're doing here for that, which is under native CI support here. Or let me scroll down to here. So what does that mean? Is that your tools should speak OIDC automatically so that they can get cloud credentials. In our case, we're installing the tool chain. So we have to integrate with the GitHub path. So those binaries that get installed can be accessed by the rest of the steps in the job. If you're running Terraform, maybe you want to be able to use the outputs from Terraform in another step. So why can't Terraform, in our case, Atmos, just output it to GitHub outputs? And the list goes on. So we've kind of drafted up where we're headed with that in this GitHub Actions for native CI in Atmos.
It's very slick. And that was like one other thing where I know a lot of times people would prefer to use TypeScript just because that's the official recommendation from GitHub. But I have heard and seen teams just go about it with Go or Rust or whatever their preferred language is. Yes, it's a bit harder since there isn't as much documentation, but they kind of view it as I'm making a CLI, a tool, an external thing, and it just so happens to integrate natively with GitHub Actions.
Yeah, I saw the first time I saw that, well, the first time I saw it and made the connection you made was when I saw OpenTofu created a GitHub action in Go to calculate the most thumbed up features. GitHub issues, right. And that was kind of like I get it. Yes, that makes total sense. It's so easy to create and generate those, and you can use a formal language to do it. Why not just do that? And that's kind of like when you see here in the GitHub Actions folder, what we're doing a little bit. Now, these are TypeScript or Bash type actions. But I think that we talked about this before on one of the office hours, how in the beginning, when you just need to iterate and get something working, you don't need to go through the overhead of creating an actions repo and all of that. Just localize your GitHub actions in your repo, maybe stash them in .github actions, and then you can call them in your workflows. And this makes your workflows very clean because all the ugliness is pushed off into a GitHub action like this, so your workflows are nice and clean.
Nice. Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to dogpile and say the same thing. With the GitHub action script or whatever is a good place to start if you want to take it to the next level. And I guess you were just kind of saying keep your stuff localized, Eric. But if you do create a repo using JavaScript, you can bundle everything up, and that makes your action much faster than the Docker file approach. But if you do have to use another language, then you're almost kind of stuck with the Docker file approach, where you're basically building your application as a container and then running your container from the pipeline. But with TypeScript, yeah, you got a lot of options to keep it fast, either directly in your repo, like with the ActionScript, or you can create a repo and then bundle it up as a JSON or JavaScript application and run it that way.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that reminds me of the other thing I really also hate about writing your TypeScript actions is that you basically gotta commit the bundled version to the repo, and that just makes the release process more complicated. So that's like this setup action that we have for Atmos piggybacks on a common pattern of using TypeScript to do it. But oh my God, all of this just to install a binary, and we have to come up with a complicated release process that creates the distribution files. So yeah, we do it, but I'm not a fan of it when it comes to this. This is where I really wish they just made it easier to push an artifact for GitHub Actions. And that was this immutable artifact that your GitHub Actions use, and that's what everyone uses. They were supposed to be coming out with this, but it seems like that the momentum behind GitHub Action artifacts is evaporated.
Just a quick thought on that. I wonder if that would, maybe not. I was thinking it might mess up the marketplace a little bit if you have this other thing where, like, the marketplace is the collection of the repos of the actions. But okay, so now what do you do with the artifact of the repo of the action? Like, how do you store and manage that and make that available to folks?
So that's what's down here in the end. And it was supposed to work with GitHub packages. And basically you would publish your actions as images to the GitHub container registry.
Yeah. Oddly enough, that's I don't know if Circle CI orbs are like that. I mean, basically all these CI sort of bolt-ons, they're Docker containers, right? Circle CI has orbs, Bitbucket Pipelines has pipes, and I think the Bitbucket Pipelines pipes are more along the lines of what you just described. It's truly a Docker container that knows how to fit itself to a Bitbucket pipeline with all the environment variables and then whatever connections are there. But it's nothing special. It's just a Docker container.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's see what else. So yeah, Bash works until it doesn't, as you said in the chat. So Jeremy says that dev containers is basically why he stopped using Kiro. And what was the issue with dev containers, Jeremy White? Or did he have to drop? I think he had to drop.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was muted. So dev containers, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
For some reason, I was scrolling up and down. I couldn't see you.
No worries.
Your picture.
Yeah, so Kiro has limited plugin support or extension support. I think it's again because of the schism with VS Code saying, hey, if you're using extensions and you want it's not a free launch as much anymore. So I know that the dev containers extension is something that's a little bit trickier to use.
What did Cursor end up doing with that? How did Cursor resolve that?
Well, the way I've gotten around it, I don't actually know. The funny part is I've started using VSCLI. Let me get a link for that. So somebody had a whole article on how they reverse engineered how the dev containers stuff works, and they made a tool called VSCLI. I think I've got it. Yeah. So here, I'll throw it in the chat. So that's what I've been using to launch dev containers with Cursor, and it works great. It's not a bunch of I should say it's still like simple, and you have to do a little bit more work if you're using Podman and SC Linux, which is what I'm using, but in general, it's fast and portable.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say you did see that we added dev container support to Atmos.
Oh, I love it.
So,
well, hey, I tell everybody, hey, go to the Atmos repo and you can use the dev container in it to mess around with local stack, which is just the coolest thing. I assume that's still working.
I think I need to revisit that and see that it is still working. But this was actually running the dev container the dev container.json. Atmos speaks dev container.json, so you can launch, attach, list, reattach, launch an interactive shell, do all of that, all the standard operations you would expect to be able to do with a dev container. And it understands the dev container specification as well. It works with Docker and Podman. Haven't tried using any other system yet with it.
Well, hey, it might not be that much effort to add cursor to it too. Say, hey, launch cursor with this dev container.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at time, folks. Thank you for the reminder there, Nena. I'm going to wrap up office hours for today. We'll be posting a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/cloudposse, where we'll be posting this in a couple of hours. If you're ever interested in getting support from our vast library of open source Terraform modules, tools, we do provide support at Cloud Posse. To learn more, go to cloudposse.com/support. And if you want to get more involved in our community, we have lots of resources for you. Attend these office hours live. Go to cloudposse.com/office hours to subscribe, enter your email, and you'll get an invitation with a Zoom link. The YouTube channel, our Cloud Posse Slack community, go to cloudposse.com/Slack to register, and our newsletter, which should be coming out pretty soon. Thank you all. Take care.